episode of Mainline Strength and Conditioning. And today, Cadre DS or Dan Skidmore. How you doing, Dan?
Doing well.
Good to see you again.
It's always good to see you.
All right. Well, today I wanted to bring Dan in because he has such a good outlook on how to motivate people, how to stay strong all the time. I mean, this guy is an inspiration to so many people. If you don't follow him on social media, I definitely recommend it. So Dan, you tell us about yourself, where you're from, how you got involved in all the things you're involved in.
Yeah, so boy, where do we start?
That's a long list.
It is a little bit of a list at this point. So I grew up in southeastern Ohio, Athens, and played sports all growing up. Didn't really have like a rock solid plan after high school, and so I decided to go into the Air Force. And went into the recruiter and I was like, hey, what's the hardest thing you got? You know, what's challenging? And he laid out a couple options and first asked me if I could swim. And then, and to that I said yes, but I had no idea what that entailed or what level he meant. And so he presented, do you want to break things or do you want to save people?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, bam, bam, smash. And so combat control seemed like the thing to do.
Now, what year was this?
2006.
Okay.
End of 2005. I graduated in 2006 and went straight into the Air Force after that.
What motivated you to go into the Air Force?
Well, my father is an electrical engineer at Ohio University.
Mm-hmm.
Was since retired, and he had a bunch of friends that were coming out of technical career fields, specifically in the Air Force or in the Marine Corps, and most of the guys came from one of those two things because they have a large aviation as well.
Right.
And the overarching theme was, hey, if you want to get treated like a real person, go into the Air Force. Because otherwise, that's just not the case. No. And for different purposes. But and everybody said, hey, the food is better,
Sure.
You get paid more, it's a good quality of life. And so I made that choice.
I got deployed to Cuba. And during the Haitian relief something back in 1992 or somewhere around there, and we had a bunch of Air Force people there, and there's living the life.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting. First, we were living in this airport, these old A-frame buildings.
Yeah. And
living with rats and everything else that was running around on the island. And the Air Force was like, hey, we got 10 extra. GP tents up on the hill. We're like, okay, let's go. And we're saying, we're gonna sleep in the dirt. No. Nice rubber flooring, air conditioning.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, this is the life.
20 years separated. I went to Haiti as well in about 2010, I think was the year for the earthquake.
Right.
And so my team went down there and we did all the air traffic control for a couple weeks. And it was the same thing. The first night we slept in we didn't really sleep because we were working for 48 hours straight, but high priority was getting the tents set up. And I remember waking up out of my cush we had cots, we had a roof over our head and we had a shower facility. And then one of the next mornings I woke up, I walked outside and it was blinding light and I tripped over some random Joe that was sleeping in the dirt and that's when I really knew that I'd made the right decision.
You definitely made the right decision.
Yeah. Turns out one of my best friends, and Steve, Steve Thomas, he was actually there as well.
Oh, really?
We just didn't know each other, so I probably tripped over him.
Yeah, right.
And he was getting eaten up by tarantulas. They were brutal out there.
All right, so after high school, you went into the Air Force. So where'd you go to, Lackland?
Yep, Lackland.
Is that where basic training is?
All Air Force guys go to Lackland, and then all the majority of the battlefield airmen, the special operations career field guys continue their training there, based out of Lackland, and then you go to airborne school, which is run by the Army, SEER school, air traffic control school, and then combat control school, which is kind of the Air Force combat controller's version of SFAS. And so that's about a year pipeline. And then you go to Florida, Herbert Field, and do another year of training before you kick out to a special tactics squadron and get ready to deploy in whatever capacity.
What did when you went to Florida? What was that just a different environmental training, like
So
general training? And...
they call it, well, they used to call it advanced skills training.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically all of your upgrades. So through training, you get like a taste of, hey, this is how you jump out of planes. This is how you do communications. This is how you do demolitions, communications, land nav. Well, then they give us an extra year to put it all together and take your skills from like juvenile to at least JV, right? And then you don't get to varsity until much later. But it's just more reps and getting guys way more experience before you get kicked out and you're expected to be the one guy on the team that knows it all. They give you an additional year of training. So in that year, you do dive school, free fall school. You continue with all the rest of the advanced skills, in communications, close air support, that type of work.
Nice. So then, when did you end up deploying to? Where'd you go first?
My first deployment was to Afghanistan on like an assault zone reconnaissance team because I wasn't a qualified JTAC at the time. That's an additional skill set and a bunch of extra training. And my squadron was on the hook to fill out the deployment. And so the guys that aren't trained to be JTACs yet, you get put on a team that basically goes out, either jumps, drives, flies into a remote airstrip, and you survey what's there for follow-on operations. So you're basically collecting data. And then there's another cool side, if we want to be a launch platform later on, like if the cool guys are going to go do something a far ways away, they use us to kind of facilitate that airport, that hasty airport. So that was my first deployment to Afghanistan in 2009.
Was it pretty a lot of action, or was it just kind of slow?
I mean, it depends on how you define action.
Your action is different from everyone else's.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a really cool trip because I got to see in that first trip, I got to go to all corners of the country. I was as far north as you could go, as far south, east, and west, and saw all the different bordering areas as well. And then, that was the same deployment that Bo Bergdahl walked off the FOB. And so if you remember, all operations ceased to a grinding halt and shifted from, trying to kill bad guys to trying to find this dude and figure out what happened. And so within that deployment, we kind of left that and then same side, like, hey, guys are getting hurt. So they kind of disbanded the team that I was doing, the Unilateral Air Force team, and they started farming us out to the SF teams to help out with guys. And so I spent the rest of that deployment as like they call it a mini Jag, right? A mini Jaguar. So you basically go out and help out the guy and be another gun on the team too, because guys, it was a rough year, and teams were losing guys, and we had a bunch of young, motivated guys that just needed experience. And so I spent the rest of that deployment bouncing around, getting some good experience in that capacity.
Now, after how long was that? Did you say that?
Man, a couple months. Our deployments are pretty short comparatively, so they keep them in like the 4 to 6 month range.
Then back to where you going?
Then I went back to Fort Bragg for more training, and that's when we basically get that close air support spun up and get ready for your next JTAC deployment, and so that was all based at Fort Bragg, and then traveling for all the trips. That was the next deployment.
So which is like basically like a workup, right? Just for the deployment.
Yeah. So getting your skills sharp and trained up so you can be the one Air Force guy on the.
And would you be assigned to like a SF team?
Yes.
And you just stay with them and work with them?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now I know, following you for as long as I have and knowing you through GoRuck and things like that, like how did you like go from like just being a kid in school to where you're like super motivated? Was it the military or did you already have that like drive when you were younger? What do you think?
And I'd say that I always had the drive, because I wouldn't consider myself like a talented guy. I've always had to work and put in the extra practice, especially, and I use like basketball, right? That was my main sport, and I would take 10,000 shots a day or whatever the goal is. But man, like, I'm putting in the work because I'm not naturally gifted, and that's just my opinion of it. But the harder you work, the luckier you get, and so that's the kind of attitude that I brought into training, and continued throughout. So that's.
Did a lot of people did people notice that, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everybody's got their own internal
Mhm.
drives, but you can. Hard work and like a good attitude is always contagious too.
Yeah.
So one of my buddies at one time, he said, you're like sunshine. He started calling me two scoops, like the guy on the 2 scoops of sunshine in the Raisin Bran thing, because it was like, hey, things could be really bad, but if you just put a smile on your face and like push
You get
forward,
through.
yeah, you get through.
Was that your call sign? 2 scoops?
2 scoops? No, that didn't catch on as well.
You're like, nah, that ain't gonna work.
No, but I mean, it's like a mindset, right? And so you asked if it kind of was noticed. Yeah, I mean, I think so.
Good. Now what, so because how long did you do in the Air Force?
I did a total of 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many other deployments did you do?
Man, I hit, well, like I mentioned, the Haiti thing when that happened, and then went to the middle of bad Africa, which not all Africa is bad. Figured that out through the Morocco experience.
Right.
I did a trip there to kind of the real nasty spots, and then 2 trips to Iraq in the last year of my enlistment.
No, I just like, because I was out of the Marine Corps for a very long time, and I look at those people going to deploying to Africa. I was like, I couldn't. I don't know if I could do it. We're like, nah, I'm good, because you got lions over there, you got crocodiles, and you got some weird stuff over there.
Yeah, well, I don't think the animals are the biggest concern.
No.
It's the kids with AKs.
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
But one of my buddies, he was on one of the Somalia deployments, and he went like swimming with whale sharks.
Wow.
So it's like, hey, you can have some fun like that, but the 4-legged animals aren't the one you got to watch out for.
No, it's the 2 ones.
Yeah.
2-legged ones.
Yeah.
So when you got out, where'd you go to after that?
So I had the plan to continue my business at Fort Bragg. So I got into owning a CrossFit gym, and was really into throughout my military career. I really found the love of training fitness, and that has continued throughout. Well, I got in with a CrossFit gym, basically became like a part owner, and then started a little family, and being gone 300 days out of the year doesn't really lend itself well to that. So the plan after separating was to stay there and double down on the family life and business, and just stay invested there. So I stayed at Fort Bragg, and stayed there for actually about 4 years after I got out.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you live in Fayetteville there?
Yeah, right in Spring Lake, Sanford.
Oh, okay. So how long, so 4 years as a owner of a CrossFit gym?
Yeah, actually from 2013 to 2019. So a little longer than 4 years.
Because I remember seeing that thing about you guys had the flood, where it flooded out, right?
Yeah.
I seen that. I remember that distinctly, because I think you guys had like I don't know if you had not PayPal, but the other one where you had
GoFundMe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I kicked in a couple bucks.
Man,
I was like, that was terrible.
I tell you what, like we couldn't have done all of what we did, the renovations, and like get it from where we were back to functional, if that wasn't the case. And it was a really rough period. I'd been out of the military for a little while. I was doing Go Ruck events every weekend to just like make do. And if you're a gym owner, there's a lot of stress that goes into that. You got a mortgage, you got bills to pay, coaches. It's not like $1 million industry until it is, and you can do really well. But in that phase of the game, we weren't. And so I had just finished that Force Blue training, and so I went and got reconnected with the water and diving and all that. And then we had Hurricane Florence came through and put a hurting on us.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, we had 5.5 feet of water. 5.5 feet of water in the gym, and it was just unbelievable, to see everything. And in 40 days, we totally renovated this whole. We stripped everything out, drywall, the floors. I mean, there was like 3 levels of wooden flooring in the place, because it's an old building. But we had to pull everything out so it didn't get moldy, and then rebuild it. And you know, my wife Izzy, she took on a job as the president of the Chamber of Commerce just to make some, because they presented her with an opportunity just to make enough money. And with that taken on and the donations for people being like, hey man, like you guys are doing it. We didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
We didn't have flood insurance.
Right.
We were in a flood zone.
Right.
But a 200-year flood.
Yeah.
Washed. Well,
in like the middle of North Carolina too.
Yeah,
It's like
not next to the water.
Happen.
Well, we were next to a river, and there's some other factors. But man, like I tell you what, if it wasn't for the community pulling together and people coming to not just like give money, but give sweat equity, like our members of our gym, if they didn't come and help us out, we'd have been.
Because you guys, I remember you guys got like some national like press on that and everything. I remember.
Yeah, I think somebody took a picture of us chest deep in water. But past that, you know, like, hey, tragedies happen everywhere.
Right.
You know, gyms get torn out by tornadoes and wrecked by anything. But I think the biggest thing for us is like we did all the work ourselves, like ripping walls out. You know, a guy came in when I was in the middle of tearing out like drywall and insulation and trying to like salvage anything we could, which was basically nothing. And he was like, hey, we'll do an insurance claim. You know, we can do all this for you. And he gave me the quote and it was like, there's no way. We'll just do it ourselves.
Right.
And I think it's the same kind of thing as like when you see somebody pushing their own car, you're more than likely going to help them out, right? As opposed to just like sitting back
and doing nothing.
But man, that was a really a turning point for us in like the grit and the grind.
Oh yeah.
But hey, you get through, and that became the work, right? As opposed to like jacking steel and lifting weights a bunch. Like that was the day's mission is to get this place rebuilt. So thank you, by the way, for
you're welcome for my $20
for help. But man, like $20 is $20, and you know it's a big thing, and like that's a sheet of drywall. Like that's putting together the dream of somebody else. And now I go back into that building years later, and how it's renovated, how it's completely improved and changed, and continues to help people that are there.
Right.
You know, that's an enriching part of that town for soldiers.
Now is that Steve's? Is that where Steve works, or
no?
That's a different one, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay. So I had a member of the gym. Do you want to hear this story?
Sure.
All right. So boy, man, I hope everybody gets along with this one. So you know, I had one of my employees at my gym approach me and was like, hey, I want to start a gym. Would you be mad if I started it right up the street? And to that, if you know anything about CrossFit gyms, like most start from one, and then people get pissed and they start their own, and then they break away and do all this. And I said, hey, well, you know, instead of starting from zero, why don't you start with something, and you can live your dream. I'll step away. So I sold this gym to one of my coaches, not Steve. And unfortunately, this guy, he had a tendency to try to psyops his way to every solution. And he soured a bunch of the coaching relationships that I built, you know, like good friends, specifically like Steve. And so they just said, nah, I'll just do something else, and went to do their own thing. And as a gym owner, I took a lot of pride in no gyms started from out of my gym, right? There was none of my coaches were like, you know, I think I don't like the way this is going to go. I'm going to do my own thing. Right. So it was a source of pride, like that didn't happen under my watch. But no, not the same guys. And you know, life goes on. But Steve has continued to train and has a bunch of good dudes, and he's just on the other side of town.
Okay. What about, so how did you get roped into GoRuck? Because I know you've been around for a while, and I've only done, well, 2 official events, and then one that we did that throw together one in Naperville we did real quick. So how did you get roped into that?
It seems like you've done way more with me though. I think you have.
Detroit.
Yeah.
D-Day.
That's it. Oh, the shooting.
Well, the shooting ones, yeah.
I feel like there's been a few more, but regardless. So one of my good friends was he was already a cadre. One of my good buddies that I was deployed with the last 3 trips of my career in the Air Force. He was already a GoRuck cadre Fury, and he was coming to the gym, and he looked like he was having a great time. He was traveling, he was, you know, like going to places and training people, and he came back and he said, "Hey man, this seems like it'd be right up your alley. Like it'd be a good fit." And so kind of made the connections, and of course all the cadre have to do an event first. And I thought that was super powerful. I was kind of deep into the strongman community at the time, and like trying to qualify for nationals and do that amateur strongman thing. And so I had the opportunity to do a tough event, and we went 20 miles and carried a lot of stuff. It was brutal.
Was it old school, like carrying logs, or was it sandbags and?
No, I think there may have been a couple of sandbags, but instead of, and I don't remember us picking up any logs, but what the cadre brought was so it was a search and rescue mission. So we found a hurting Herman, the big guy that weighs dead Fred, and a bunch of chains and a litter and just some brutal stuff. And it was like, miles upon miles, and it was heavy. But it was fun, and I hadn't felt that same suck factor since
like selection.
Yeah, since my selection to go to the unit, and like you can't replicate that until you do, and it's like that's the hard scenario, right? And I had those little like flashbacks of like, oh man, this sucks, and so I had a great time with it, and since then, man, it's been so fun.
Oh yeah. So how many events have you cadres?
I'm getting close to 200.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Jesus. Are you doing? You coming up on selection? Doing selection?
No, I've never done a selection. I've done a few of the team assessments, but man, like I've kind of went towards the definitely more the training avenue of things, as opposed to just like yelling and beating down and like that side. And now we've gone so far that I don't even want to do the selection. I'd just rather like train guys up and do and through whatever the training avenue is, like build our community rather than break down the 30 guys that show up and try to get guys to quit.
There you go.
So that's kind of my mindset of it now, and I think I got to stay with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good stuff. I'd rather be behind the scenes, like rooting everybody on. In that event.
The programming of the like SRT and things like that. Oh, I love it. It's been. I mean, she's done a couple of them with me too, but they're just absolutely horrible. Yeah. Like I did the was it the 259 the other day? I think I got like 6 or 7 rounds. I was just shattered. I was smoked after that.
Yeah. Well, man, that's been the goal, is like with that training, and a lot of parameters set around it is like, hey, all you have is a sandbag and a ruck. What can you get done? You can get a lot done. You can get a lot of work done, and for a lot of people, that's all they need is just to get that work started, so that they can get the ball rolling and moving in the right direction. And so building work capacity is that simple, really. You just have to get the work. It's not enjoyable when you're doing it, but through that means of the sandbag and ruck training, and now it's kind of evolved into the TNT, the tribe and training. I think good effects overall. Yeah. Hard workouts.
Definitely. What about so like you're throughout the years of you training people and doing the CrossFit things, because did you go to regions too?
Yeah, so in 2011, 12, 13, and 14, I went to regionals as CrossFit regionals, and then in 2015 they kind of switched to the super regionals, where it was only like the top 20 guys. And I'm not good at like the open workouts, but I would always every year I got 20th place at regionals. So I'm like right in the middle, like the top games guys, they're on another wave.
Oh yeah.
They're a step ahead, and that's their full-time career. Right. But in 2015, 14, I still went to the regionals. But the day before the regional started, I was going through free fall jump master school. So I'm like the night before we start, I'm like looking out of an aircraft, hanging my head out, spotting free fall jumps. So that doesn't really lend to
that's
competitive.
Not much time.
Not really great for competitive exercise. And then 2015, I was in Iraq through the open and through regionals. So I missed out on that, but probably wouldn't have made it anyways. Right. So that kind of put an end to the competitive exercise career.
And the one thing I wanted, like, why I wanted to interview you, because you're always like, I don't know, man, you're like always freaking motivated. Like every time, I mean, I'm sure you have your moments too, but it's like you see a picture of Dan Skidmore, you're like, I'm motivated now. It's like, what the hell's going on with me? And what do you think? How do you think you get that? Like, how do you maintain that? You think?
Well, I try to stay positive,
Yeah.
right? In avenues, even if it's real bad, right? Finding a way to like, reframe a situation to put it out for a good message. And at the same time, like the age of social media, like if I put my bitches and gripes on there, like, it gives you one message, right? But hopefully people can use any kind of attitude as fuel, right? So if you say, hey, this is the message that I'm trying to put out, even if it's cryptic or like, it just shows, hey, guys are out getting after it, and there's plenty of people that are always doing it. But that's just a message of positivity that I try to put out.
What do you think about? Because like just retiring from the Bureau of Prisons, I know. Working 28 years in that field, I know, being involved in so many different situations, and people get burnt out on things, and I know I always tried to stay super motivated for myself and for the people I supervised all the time. Like what would you recommend, like if you see somebody like down and out, like what would you recommend to get that person up and moving?
Yeah, so the idea of burnout is one thing that, like, you're in it. If you've chosen whatever career you have, like, we all make choices early on and you got to stay in it, but you can't afford to get burned out. Like, you have to find a pace that you can sustain, but then if you feel overworked, you just have to reframe it mentally and then adjust accordingly. Because like I use training and job stuff that parallel each other, right? And it maybe is even like a coach, right? If you're a coach of a gym, it parallels a supervisor role,
right?
And so you can't afford to get burned out. The world can't afford to have you burned out because you're there for a mission. And if that's what you've chosen for your like daily life, like that's what you're there for. You're either trying to keep dudes on the straight and narrow, right? No matter what, if corrections or law enforcement or whatever it is, or as a coach, well, that's your mission. And so taking great pride in that, and you have to remind guys sometimes of if their why and the reason. That's what I always fall back to, because man, like we all have bad days, right? And then you got to find those reasons of like why you're feeling burnt out. Is it too many hours, or is it not enough good recovery?
Right.
And so we have to balance that, because guys, you'll work yourself to the bone before you stop. But finding that limiter and then peeling a couple layers back and then managing yourself is vitally important. And we all have to feel it. But you got to find that edge and then figure out what works to keep you in the fight.
I know, like when I was a captain, or even when I was a lieutenant, I started doing go work events and things like that, and people are like, "You're absolutely crazy. Why are you doing this?" I said, "Well, you got to be ready at all. Whenever something happens, you got to be ready, because especially in this field, we never know if something's gonna happen. And when it happened, guess who was usually the first one through the door was me, or I was pushing somebody out of the way to get in there, and a few people throughout the years was like, hey, I want to try it with you. I got a few people out there, and they're just like, I'll never do that again, or they're like, hey, when's the next one? Or when's the next time we're training together, or things like that. Because like right now we do a lot of the SRT workouts on what we call Sunday Fun Day, and we do a lot of those workouts, and here and there I get a few people from the job that still come around once in a while. It's been a while now, but I've been gone for almost a year now, so people tend to forget about you after you retire, so, as you know, right? And yeah, man, it's just good stuff, man. It just like keeps me super motivated, and I love doing all that stuff.
It is. I think it's super important to occasionally do things that suck, right? To remind yourself kind of where you're at, how you need to adjust training. But those little tests, and I think Go Work events do a really good job of like testing you at every level, right? Because you've done a few where you're like, hey, I'm just getting into this. I'm just gonna go with the flow, check the box. But if it really pushes you, then it reminds you of, hey, I'm still hard. Yep, I still
Yeah,
got
I
it.
still got it.
And then it translates to everything else. Because so many dudes, and you know, like you get in the job, you know, you put your hat on and hide behind that title.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it gets soft.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I've seen it on the special operations
Totally
side.
complacent.
Yeah.
You just don't give a damn anymore.
But occasionally you have to, you know, rehack that, and I think that environment lends to that really well. And even inside of a gym space is like you see if you're there for 5 years, you know, so you see a lot of people come and go and not stay with the program.
Right.
You know, it's a very small percentage of people, but you get exposure to it, and those are the people that you got to insulate and bring them in close and keep them on the path. Because all hard things they're worth doing. Like people want to dabble in it, but then you see a big turnover. But just like the gym, you know, or training hard or jujitsu, right? Yeah. The things that are really hard, and the guys that are there for a long time, they're probably pretty serious guys. You know, you don't make it to brown belt or black belt if you are just kind of like a waif. If you're just like easily swayed. Same thing with the gym, right? I mean, you look at a dude that can snatch 200 pounds. You didn't just wake up and do that.
No.
It takes a lot
of
reps.
Takes a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, showing up, and you're gonna work through some things. You're gonna work through some heartache and some injuries. Yeah. You know, and then guys like say, "Oh, I'm retired from Go Ruck events." For what? You're retired from doing hard things. Yeah. Is that? I'm not saying that Go Ruck's the end all be all, but like, hey, what's next? There's a lot of other hard events that you can do. But are you retired from doing hard things? Like what?
Like, how did you pick up jiu-jitsu? Because I know you're really big into that now.
Man, I'm definitely obsessed. I got introduced to it years ago when I was actually at the advanced skills training when I was, 19 years old.
Right.
And went to a couple classes, and I was not physically prepared. I was not strong. I was like a runner and pull-ups and push-ups, and then gave it a big break, and really had to focus on so many other things. And then had a kind of moved out to Morocco a few years ago. I had we went to a judo class, and I loved it. It was like, yes, this is what we need to be doing, right? I actually moved to Morocco and said, I told Izzy I want to become an artist, right? What does that mean?
What?
An artist, right? Like drawing or painting.
Really?
Yeah. Doing some creative shit, right? I mean, because you go somewhere and you got to unleash little other parts of yourself and find things that are missing, whether it's drawing or, whatever that is. And I really fell into maybe martial arts as a part of that. Because I can't play music or draw for shit. But I got into kind of like a violent encounter on the street with this dude, and it was kind of a bad situation. And but it's super safe there. There was just this one dude that he was not a good guy, and had the smash down. And then I was like, hey, I actually want to get more into training, and found some tough dudes out there. And,
really?
We trained.
And they had a gym there, right?
They do, yeah. There's a couple different, factions of jiu-jitsu clubs that are out there, and man, they're tough. And I've trained a lot here, and seen what they have, and a lot out there, and there's a lot of European influence in Morocco. So you get guys coming down from France or Spain and whatnot. But man, they're tough. They're high level guys, and I've really become addicted to it.
What are you now, blue?
Yeah, blue belt.
Blue belt stuff?
Yeah.
I dabbled in it, but man, it was like, and we're just doing more like grappling more than more like jiu-jitsu, but I got my ass handed to me a bunch of times, and I was like, all right, I gotta go back. And I just get home and be like so sore, and then I don't know, little injury, something happened just to my wrist, and I had to go to the doctor. I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move, pick up a kettlebell, nothing. Yeah. With my left hand, and then I had a real tough Go Ruck event coming up, and I was like, all right, I got to train for that, focus on that, and I'll get back to it. And I really have to get back to it because I really loved it. I mean, the discipline and the mindset that you have to have is like, all right, here we go. I'm probably gonna get my ass handed to me, but I gotta do it. So it's good stuff to learn. I still have that on a daily basis, and I think that is one of those things. It's like as guys filter into the gym and you start eyeing everybody, like, oh man, I'm gonna have to fight him today. I'm gonna have to fight him.
He's big. I'm gonna get crushed. But that, like, getting through that mental hurdle and like
Yeah.
doing it anyways is extremely powerful for
Right.
anybody,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
You have to take on those
Yeah.
challenges, and as opposed to like just showing up to the gym and checking the box of like hard training, and like this is an altercation. And we have some
Mhm.
gentleman rules that we're gonna abide by,
Yeah.
but I can put the hurt on you, and then also like with jujitsu, you're gonna get hurt, right, guys? It's going to happen. But with every, and I think this is super interesting, is with every martial art, there's a balancing yoga, right, or recovery aspect of it. And so, and that's like the yin and yang of training. And so I think, you're gonna get bruised up, but having the capacity to one, rehab yourself, and then also like find a way to continue training without a limb, right? So
Yeah.
I was down on a knee. I like slammed a dude, and I had this freak injury where I kind of tore, well, didn't tear, but strained my MCL, so the inside of my knee, and put me back for a little bit. But it gave me the opportunity to find a great rehab program. Totally like use the stuff that I talk about, right? Compression, rest, energy work, like eat right for it, mobilize it,
Right.
do all your physical therapy by yourself, and find a way to make it even stronger yourself, and like learn more about yourself, and then work on another part of your game. Because jujitsu is great with your legs, right? My legs against your arms and head.
Yeah.
So you can find some stuff to work on for your upper body. And always finding those little pieces of the game that you can be improving, even if you got a bum, knee or wrist. So you just gotta kind of find areas to work on all the time, because you're gonna get hurt, right?
Right.
And it forces you to like dial in other specific parts of your game.
That's pretty awesome. So where are you now? Because I know you said you moved to Morocco. Right? Now, how long you been there?
3 years. So we went, before the entire world decided to shut down and change for all the reasons and adjustments that had to be made. We were able to use that time to renovate this place that we have in Morocco. So it's a boutique hotel, and so we have a beautiful place there. Everybody's welcome to come. So everybody listening, gotta come hang out.
I'll advertise for you too.
There you go. And so we renovated this place, and now the whole plan from the entire beginning was to be back and forth. So I love to run events and do different training in the stateside. So we travel back and forth, and like this is our back window. So that's fully running. We love living out there, and we've got a great community. But man, like I want to stay connected here, and so I knock out events like got the 9/11 coming up, a couple weekend back to back for that, and just live both sides.
Nice. So what's that? 4 years you said you've been out there? Wow.
Man, we're at 3. It'll be coming up on 4. Yeah.
When you going back?
November-ish. Yeah, we're open ended on this one because so many things change and little events come up, but the plan is November. So ideally quarterly, back and forth. And if I can skip out on the 120 degrees, or it's too cold here, I like to
go back there and
get back there.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you said you have 9/11 events going on?
Yeah.
We're going to New York?
I'm going to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And then doing a triple light out in Des Moines. So the 515 guys got a badass row club out there. I don't know if you train with those guys at all.
I just see them on social media.
Man, great groups, and so you can hit a couple different cities, and so a couple weekends. But Washington D.C. Prime spot. I like it there a lot.
Yeah, we got Cleve coming to Naperville.
Oh yes.
In a couple weeks, so
that'll be awesome.
We've been training like hell for it.
Nothing you do will prepare you for what's about to come down.
I know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's next for you? What are you gonna be doing?
Hey, I'm running the events, keeping the community strong. I think that's my biggest goal is preparing people that are willing participants in hard things, right? And whether it's the Tahoe 200-mile race or jiu-jitsu or just life or tactical events, the tactical games events. my main goal is to, and it always has been, but is to positively impact people through strength or mentality or, whatever the capacity is, but build you up so that you can and be an asset on your team
Right.
to further your mission. And so if that's through Go Ruck events, great.
Mm-hmm.
If that's, through any other style of training that we do, boom. But if it's in Morocco and I go back and hang out on that side, my big goal is like having fun, being with my son, and just enjoying this whole process.
That's awesome.
So whether we're like abroad or here, just training hard and having a fun time.
I've seen you guys doing, as you're charging your vehicle across country, you're doing workouts at the charging points?
Yeah, man. So I started this little dice training, and it's just kind of, like I got all these ideas for like how we organize our training. And one thing that you can definitely do is like, hey, at a gas station, right? So I got real butthurt because I don't necessarily buy into the whole this whole oil thing is, Putin's problem or Putin's fault.
Right.
Although that's been shoved down our throats. Right. Whatever your political views are, my viewpoint on it is, hey, well, this is a problem, and if I got an F-150, right, and you got a Jeep that's sucking down some serious gas,
right.
And as I see gas double or make a huge impact, it's really hurting my morale.
Mm-hmm.
And so what can I do to change that up? Well, instead of just complaining about it, gotta get another car, right? You gotta get with the times, and so not everybody can do that. Obviously, like it's not great, but one adaptation is every 200 miles or so, you gotta stop and charge it up, and it gives you an opportunity to get out of your car every hour and a half, 2 hours, and train a little bit. And so on the side of the road, like, man, at a gas station, I'll bring a kettlebell and some bands and my ruck plate carrier and a ruck, and get out of the car and move your body, sweat a little bit, burn it down, like feel alive, and then get back after it. And man, you can only be so like, it's a really good opportunity to break up the monotony. And I truly believe in like mini sessions, mini little workouts. Because it's better to do a lot than a lot a little bit. Yeah. And so I'm using that as an opportunity to kind of to track that, to share, and hopefully inspire other people to like do something, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of just sitting there and I can play endless games or just be like scrolling along on my phone, just like anybody would, right? But using the time that's allotted to you to do something with it.
I like it. I like it. So, any final thoughts? Because we'll wrap this up. Because I know you've been busy all day here. Well, all weekend actually. So, actually, let's talk. What did you do this weekend here?
So, there's an awesome documentary that you should watch. It's on, I believe, Amazon Prime. West Side versus the World, and it's about a group of crazy powerlifters from Columbus, Ohio, that developed this method of programming called the conjugate method. And it's basically a structure of training where you can, organize your daily lifts and all of the work that you do for your training sessions, and put it into a organized fashion, right? Instead of constantly very high intensity, randomized training, they break it down into a manageable method, right? Where it doesn't have to be, this is the prescription, but for you, hey, what do you need to work on, right? Where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses? We know how we have to train. And so I linked up with these guys, and the name is Conjugate Tactical, right? So that's for powerlifters. But there's also applications, because what a powerlifter needs to, squat, bench, deadlift on a platform somewhere, it varies by a significant degree to what an operator needs, to what a firefighter needs, to what a police officer needs, or even any career field, or a fighter per se. And so how do we use those methods that the strongest are getting continually stronger by doing, and apply them to these other realms? And so it's really been a way that I started training while I was deployed in 2015, kind of digging through and applying the principles that they use inside the conjugate method. And so I took the Conjugate Tactical course this weekend in Chesterton, Indiana, and basically to get a look under the hood to see exactly how to plug it in and make it work for all different types of athletes, and depending on your strengths and weaknesses. So, just a little continuing education, and it's a lot of confirming what we've already been doing, but it's just another way to organize your training.
We're going to see some of that in SRTs?
Yeah, so SRT falls under the general physical preparedness, right? Which is the most important thing for most people, because you got to be able to move relatively heavy objects. You got to be able to carry it a long ways, and move your body up and down, right? We got to get on the ground and change levels essentially, and that changing levels looks like a burpee, right? And it gets you out of breath really quickly. Very quickly, very effective. But inside, and then if you want to do more, you have to do a little bit more, right? So if you want to get stronger, maybe throw some barbells on there. If you want to get better shape, maybe condition a little bit more. So inside the GoRuck space, we've got this new app where we're layering a lot of our training, and so the daily training is just one part of it, right? So there's a certain subsection of people that will just do SRT, right? But if you want more, you have to do a little bit more. So how do we add on some strength training onto that, and then add on, hey, not everybody has the same weaknesses, right? You and I have you've got maybe more developed triceps than I've got, so I don't need to work that as much, but I need to work my upper back more to build in those weaknesses. On a GoRuck sense, hey, do you need to do more miles, or do I need to do more recovery work? And so it's kind of a mindset of like always finding the weak link and attacking that to build everything up over time. And so we will continue to definitely layer it in the community, but it's bringing it to more people and places and exposing more folks to it. Like these guys, there's a lot of police officers and law enforcement guys that are dying to know how to train better, right? More effective methods rather than just crushing themselves once or twice a week. Well, what can we do to get 8 to 12 training sessions?
Right. Oh yeah.
Well, hey, one of my training sessions looks like on the side of the road with a band and a sandbag, or just a band, and I'm working on things like my neck, my upper back, my hamstrings, low intensity stuff that can make a world of difference in your health and longevity and whatever your career is.
I see a lot of that, coaching CrossFit part time, and I see a lot of that where people are like, "What's a sandbag gonna do? Come on over here, I'll show you."
Yeah.
And it'll be like one session, and like, "Oh yeah, that was horrible. We'll come back the next time." "Oh, no, that's too hard. What do you mean it's too hard?" Yeah, I just want to just do lifts." Well, that's you're not gonna progress if you just do one thing all the time. It's like, you gotta change it up.
Absolutely, changing it up, and also owning everything, right? Like, oh, you just own the barbell, but when it's kind of a weird movement, you get dominated. Or if you do all that really well, but can't manage your physicality against somebody else that has an option, right? Like, I mean, if you're just beating up on a barbell, how tough are you really? But if you can say, hey, I can control myself against a bad guy, right? Because a bad guy chooses when, where, and how hard they fight. That's really the fight that is super important, especially for me with like my kids, my wife, hey, your step ups are great, and your mile time is awesome.
But what are you gonna do when Billy Badass comes along and tries to do something bad to you? Oh yeah.
Man, and that's a side of training that we haven't really dove into. I'm super passionate about it for years of the Tony Blauer stuff, and your just self-defense training is the mindset of why we're actually exercising, right? What are we really doing here? If you're not taking care of being able to protect and provide for your family in a better way.
Probably most people are gonna say just to look good, I guess.
And that's totally part of it, but how good do you look if you're dead? Not very good.
Not good. Look kind of gray.
You look, exactly. So, that should be, hopefully, and as we expand upon this whole thing, we did at the GoRuck Games, we did the grappling event. Right? I mean, I think there's something in tying all this together, right? Because there's only so much evolution of, I pick this up, I put this down, that we can have.
Right.
But if we can say, hey, you and I did a shooting event together, that is extremely important.
Oh yeah.
Right? That side of training is the martial side of training, right? The warrior side of the ethos that we need to bring to the tribe. It's there, right? But expose more people to it.
All right.
And that's a seriously awesome part of training that can go on forever, right? That's the that's the side that really matters is the mental toughness. We layer that in, right? if you can walk and talk and communicate as a team, that's step one, right? Well, then can we fight? Can we be prepared? Can we be more effective as a warrior and as a tribe leader in your community? And it all ties together, and that's where I want to get the wheels spinning to. So that's where we're headed.
We're going there. I think we're definitely going there. What as far as like being part of being the training guy for GoRuck. I mean, what do you think you have like kind of open parallels where you can do and come up with just about anything, or is it how do you guys plan that out?
With regards to what?
With the training aspect, like the SRT, how you guys like the sand kettlebells, like how did those come out? How did that develop? Was it an idea from something?
Yeah. So where there's a need, there's going to be a solution, right? And we got kettlebells are a great way to train.
Yeah.
It's hard to do anything unilateral with the body, so one side or another working at a time, and it's just another tool for the toolbox. And I think what you're going to see is more layering on of ways to use those things inside of our training program. Because lifting's great, and we want you to do that. Just another tool for the toolbox.
I love it. Good, because we've been using them quite a bit.
Yeah,
they're great.
Yeah,
I love them.
I really like using it, and I've used kettlebells since I was like 18. Got introduced to it then, and it's a positive part of training, but it's just different, and you should own the whole space, and I think that's really where we're trying to go with our training.
Cool, I like it. So, final thoughts from Dan. What you got about how to persevere over bad things, and because I know you've been in some pretty tough situations in your life through your military career, and you're a hard worker. You're traveling all the time. How do you get through those things?
Just stay positive. Take care of the basics. Eat right. Drink less. Right. Keep your body. Treat your body like you hate it, but also like you love it. Right. You're responsible for it, and like look out for yourself. Eating right. Find a way to maintain your machine, and find your community that enriches things, right? That builds you up. And there's plenty of guys that want to be a part of that. Whether it's like virtual, right? You make great friends that you never even met,
Right.
And build your team and build it strong, and you're gonna keep working on it. Just be in a constant process of positive evolution.
One small request.
Send it.
So, a few of us from our 630 Rutgers Club, we're going to do a calendar, but you're going to be in it.
Is this like
you're just going to be on the calendar
shirtless
somewhere.
sandbags?
Probably. So you'll get a request here really soon for a photo.
Only if I'm December, then Cadre Dan has to be January, and Chewy has to be February or something like that.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, man, along with that, if I'm on this calendar, check it out. January, we're looking at doing a winter survival event.
Oh yeah.
And,
so you're gonna be there for that?
Have you heard about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's the plan.
In New York?
That's the location. So man, just keep finding ways to train.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, everybody. You guys have a good day. If you need anything, you just know who to call. All right. Bye.